What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about AMD. We're going to go over their earnings report real quick, and we're going to talk about why I think they are a good company. We're going to do a quick recap of what they do and why I think they are a good long-term hold. But let's obviously look at the chart as well, and we'll go over some price levels and things like that. But for now, let's talk about the company itself. So AMD is a microchip processing, so a semiconductor microchip company. So they produce some of the world's fastest microchips. They claim the world's best laptop processors, the AMD Ryzen 5000 series, and they are manufacturing everything from gaming microchips to performance and all kinds of other computer related items. So they are a leading tech company, probably the leading microchip processing company, especially now after this report, and it showed that Intel and Nvidia are starting to these guys are starting to kind of overtake them, which is something I always thought, because one thing about AMD that sets them apart is, with Intel, yeah, the Intel processors are generally like pretty nice, but they're one of those things, they're not very versatile. And this is kind of like Apple versus Microsoft, right? So AMD is kind of like your Microsoft, whereas Intel is like your Apple, but AMD allows more versatility, and with the power upgrade now that they're getting to their products, they offer more versatility and the same performance as Intel chips. So I always have been bullish on AMD, and I always thought that AMD was going to be the better microchip processing company, especially because they're more into gaming. Like my computer that I'm streaming on right now is an AMD, and I bought this thing like 10 years ago, right? And it's because I wanted an AMD. I didn't want an Intel, even though Intels are like a lot easier, especially for beginners and people that are not very tech savvy or whatever. AMD is more the one that you can build around, right? You can build a PC around it, and you can work with it, and you can also do different things with it, which is why a lot of crypto mining companies are going with AMD processors rather than Intel, because AMD has that versatility where Intel does not, right? So these are just going over all their different types of processors that they manufacture. These are their different companies that they partner with for their cloud-based services and different types of supercomputing deployments. So it's just obviously like every company that uses computers goes with AMD. So Amazon, Alibaba Cloud, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, all of these are partnering with AMD, or at least using their technology, all the way down to Xbox and all of these different types of gaming and technology and television to TVs to whatever, right? Everything that uses microchips and gaming, different types of gaming platforms are all going to use AMD chips. And obviously this is just going to grow and grow and grow. It's a sector that's been growing, probably one of the fastest growing sectors over the past 10 years is the video game sector. So just look for this to keep expanding. So it talks about here that AMD is to acquire Xilinx, all stock transaction worth $35 billion. Xilinx stockholders will receive 1.72 shares of AMD, and the pro forma 74% AMD and 26% Xilinx will combine to create a one company under the AMD name. So this is Chinese company that they have partnered or will acquired, and it's going to give them ability to fill their needs and better perform in the Asian markets, looks like. And yeah, so this is their just things they're going to go over here. Might not be the updated ones because they just released their numbers today, so I'm going to go over those in a second. This is just their investor presentation that I'm going over here, so there's not much left to it, nothing too crazy. They just go over obviously their main different products, being their microchips and their technologies, from Radeon to their Instinct, Apex. These are all designed for different types of, like from PC gaming to GPUs to CPUs designed for the data centers, and for GPUs or CPUs and GPUs designed for data center creation. So these are more for like corporate and business, even government type of institutions or agencies. Our goal is to build a best-in-class growth company. For more than 50 years, AMD has driven innovation in high-performance computing, graphics, visualization technologies, the building blocks for gaming, immersive platforms, and the data center. Hundreds of millions of consumers, leading Fortune 500 businesses, and cutting-edge scientific and research facilities around the world rely on AMD technology daily to improve how they live, work, and play. Yeah, and that's what I was kind of going over. So that's that. It's obviously the big thing here is their PC company, and they're basically one of the best and most used for gaming. It's one of the most recommended for most gamers is to buy an AMD or to configure your own AMD computer. So AMD is a very good company. They have been for quite a while. They're a very solid company. Don't expect huge 100% gains out of this out of play like this, at least not in the next 6 months, but in the next 10 years, over the next 5 to 10 years, you could probably see 100% gain easy in a company like this, especially if you're buying close to the $75 level. As you can see, the resistance forming at that $75 level, as you can see on this chart here. And I'll go over this report here because this is a really good report detailing kind of the different aspects of this earnings. So as Q1 earnings season continues to roll along, on deck today is AMD, who is getting the privilege of reporting some very positive earnings for the first 3 months of 2021. Firing on all cylinders, CPU, GPU, and semi-custom, AMD's numerous product launches over the last several months are now paying major dividends for the company, as everything AMD is in high demand. And indeed, AMD is the poster child for the current chip crunch, as the company is making everything it can, and even after selling over $3.4 billion worth of chips in Q1, it's still not enough. For the first quarter of 2021, AMD reported $3.45 billion in revenue, making for another staggering jump over a year ago quarter for AMD, when the company made just $1.79 billion in what was their best first quarter in a decade. For 2021, it's now all about setting and beating records for the company, as evidenced by the 93% leap in year-over-year revenue. AMD's big run-up in revenue is also reflected in the company's other metrics. Along with the revenue, AMD's net income has grown by 243% year-over-year, now reaching $555 million, and if not for an unusual one-off tax benefit for AMD last quarter, Q1 2021 would be AMD's most profitable quarter ever, and indeed is on a non-GAAP basis. Meanwhile, AMD's gross margin is holding at 46%, steady versus Q4, up 1 percentage point versus the year-ago quarter. So just looking at these different quarters, obviously, you can see the growth and shift from the first quarter last year to the first quarter this year. Obviously, it's a huge year-over-year shift, right? And you can just see every category from net income to earnings per share is up year-over-year, right? So this is just steady growth, showing steady growth. One more of the flag bearer for AMD is their computing and graphics segment, which encompasses their desktop and notebook CPU sales as well as their GPU sales. That division booked $2.1 billion in revenue for the quarter, $662 million more than Q1 2020. Accordingly, the segment's operating income is once more up significantly as well, going from $262 million a year ago to $485 million this year. So almost doubling as well. They don't give you a detailed breakdown of the segment, but overall client CPU sales were quite strong. The big wins are coming from premium devices such as ultra-thin laptops and gaming devices. So their 5000 series has ramped up almost twice as fast as their 4000 series did, showing a consistent demand for their products as they come out with new products, and they show you this consistent revenue uptrend in the past 2-3 years. Every year is just consistently growing in revenue. And it's like, do you see computers just dying off and going away, or do you see computers growing and being a more demand for gaming and for online interaction? And this is just going to be a growing segment. So that this isn't something that's going away. This is something that's exponentially growing. Dun, 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 dun. A lot of the stuff down here is, talking about their operating income and talking about, how much the company's spending, and how much they're sitting on, and how much cash they have on hand. So they're sitting on $3.1 billion in cash and equivalents in short-term investments. Conversely, long-term debt is down to $313 million at this point. AMD is in a stronger position than they have ever been. So obviously, if you're sitting on $3.1 billion and your debt is only $313 million, and companies have to, it's good to keep debt. It gives other businesses a reason to lend to you, and it's, obviously, if you have more than 10 times the amount, more 100 times the amount in cash in the bank than your debt is, then it's obviously a really good thing for the company. Looking forward, AMD's expectations for the quarter and for the rest of the year are as equally lofty as the preceding quarters. Demand for AMD chips still outpaces supply in most segments thanks to the ongoing chip crunch and substrate supply issues. So AMD has yet to fully tap the current market, let alone prepare for any further growth in product demand. Consequently, AMD is projecting some very rosy figures for Q2 21 and for the full year. The company expects to book $3.6 billion in revenue for Q2, which, if it comes to pass, it will be an 86% jump over Q2 2020. Meanwhile, AMD has revised their full year 2021 projections and are now expecting total revenue to increase by 50% versus their $9.8 billion FY 2020 for previous estimate. So basically, they're saying they're expecting their revenue to grow by another 50% by the end of the year. So from the 100% that they've gained now, to grow another 50%. So that would be up to almost $5 billion in a quarter. Right? That's just nuts. As for AMD's product lineup, while the company is now decidedly early to mid-cycle on its CPU products, today's earnings release does have some interesting GPU news. First up, AMD is still in the middle of launching its complete Navi 2X stack of GPUs and associated video cards. Along with continuing that launch on the desktop, the first mobile Radeon RX 6000 products are slated to launch later this quarter. And in the HPC space, AMD is expecting to ramp their next generation Radeon Instinct products in the second half of the year, which will be going into the forthcoming Frontier supercomputer, among other products and projects. So basically, they're just ramping up their production on a lot of their newer production lines, and this will only ramp up their demand for in their corporate, because like I said, the one is their corporate the Radeon or the whatever, the one is their corporate demand. So these Instinct and are more for the data centers. So they're more for government and different intelligence agencies or even just corporate, businesses that want to have huge data centers that need very, very fast computing to handle all the information and data that they're dealing with. They will be using these new AMD Radeon processors, right? So other than that, let's go over the stock chart real quick. Obviously, I'd like to have a better stock chart. So maybe we'll go to Yahoo here, if we can actually get a better screen of the chart. But overall, it had a down day, even though it had really good earnings. It had a down day. So that was kind of, interesting. Basically, it lost $4 today, down about 5%. But overall, I think that I'm obviously bullish after everything I just went through. I definitely should be bullish, but I'm not crazy bullish from right now. It's good to wait and see what happens after earnings. There's just crazy things, but I expect this thing to bounce, and I expect this to be in the 90s in the next few weeks, and then, like I said, within the next couple years, I expect to see this thing at least double. So we'll see what happens. But either way, I think it's pretty strong. It's looking pretty strong, and with the earnings that they just came out with, it's looking like they might be due for a nice pop, even though they had a sell-off today in reaction to the positive earnings. So we'll see what happens. But overall, AMD, the company, is probably the best microchip company that you could look at. I've always been kind of more of a bigger fan of AMD than Intel. So, and after this report and earnings, it seems that a lot of people are starting to recommend AMD over Intel. But we'll see. In the long run, time will only tell. But I still think AMD is the better chip company, and we'll see what happens over the next coming days, depending on how this earnings report people react to it. But overall, I think it's going to be pretty positive, and you're going to see the stock rebound from the kind of dip that we had today. Sometimes the stock market does weird things, right? You have really positive news, or you have really positive earnings, and it sells off. It's not necessarily the company's fault, but it's just the way the market reacts. You can't always be right. It can't always do exactly what you predict, and then, because if it always did what you'd predict, you'd always be able to make money in the markets, right? So that's why when they have good earnings and it sells off, it's because if it did exactly what everybody thought it would, then everybody would be millionaires, right? So you can't always predict it. So you kind of just have to wait and see. But if you're bullish on it, then getting, like I said, buying close to the $75 level, when you look at the overall kind of yearly chart, and when you look at the, over the past 6 months, basically, ever since the summer of last year, every time it dips down to $75, it gets bought up. So $75 to me would be your target price, or closer to 80 if you're more bullish. But 75 is going to be your support level for now, and that's where I'd look to get in if you were looking to buy the dip. But if you were more bullish, and I think that it's probably going to be a good long-term hold either way. So that's my thoughts on AMD. That's my thoughts on the chart. And like I said, 75 is your point of entry, and we have some big resistance up here towards $100. But if we can crack that, then we can easily go to 150, which I think, if I had to give a prediction, I think we will hit 150 probably within the next 5 years, but probably sooner than later, right? So that's just my prediction from AMD. Don't expect any crazy moves from it, but it is definitely a good opportunity for a long-term hold. And if you are definitely bullish on the chipset, if you think technology and computers are going to be the way of the future, and they're going to continue to be an exponentially growing business, then AMD is probably going to be a good company to look at. So that's what all I have to say about the company right now, and hopefully you guys were able to make some money trading today, or at least are in AMD for the long run, and are waiting to see it pop up. So, but we're going to see what happens. Obviously, these are really good earnings. So I still think you might have some good options plays on it as well. Buying options, $80 options, close to the $80 mark strike price, call options, and just holding for like a 2 or 3 month expiry with a 2 or 3 months expiration date, I think is something that I'm thinking of. So if this dips back towards 80 and I can get expirations 2 or 3 months from now, I might be buying some call options with a strike price of $80. So that's one of the plays I think that you should be looking for. And if it dips even lower to 75, then you can buy those 75 strikes, and I think those are cool. Those will be really good. But obviously, that's just my opinion. Take your own, always do your own research. Always, do your own thoughts. Take your own advice. Or, you know what I'm trying to say. Don't take my advice. Do your own research before you invest in anything, and then you're not going to, have anybody to blame but yourself. So this is just my opinion, but my opinion is that AMD is a buy. It's always going to be a buy. It's a great company. So just buy it and hold forever, and buy the dip. Keep buying the dips. That's my opinion, not my trading advice. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Feel free to like and subscribe in the comments below. Let me know if you guys are in AMD or what you guys think of the company. Are you guys getting at it Intel, or are you guys jumping ship, getting into AMD, or are you guys thinking that Intel is still a better hold? Or are you guys looking at both of them thinking that, hey, might as well play both microchip companies and see which one wins? Either way, I think they're both probably going to be winners in the long run because they're both going to be profitable companies. And they're both doing well. So, but definitely I think AMD is going to be the overall winner in the long term. That's my analysis, or my 2 cents. Anyway, have a good one, guys. Bye.